Ladies, gentlemen, and vault hunters of all ages, Borderlands 4 has an immense amount of equipment, and the truly impressive part is just how many different things in this game are genuinely very powerful, and how many different ways you can achieve significant power through them. One of everyone's favorite parts of a Borderlands game then are the guns, and so today we're going to focus on guns, and we've already done one of these, but over the last week some more discoveries have been made, and so some of them will be the same entries because they are still super strong, some will be altered versions of the previous entries, and some are just completely new to the list, either because they have only been found recently, or in one of their cases because they were buffed by the devs themselves. So today we're going to be talking about the 10 best current weapons in the game. Some of these weapons are great right out of the box, some of them do have to be used in a certain type of build to see their true potential power level, but all of them are incredibly strong weapons that I would recommend picking up one way or the other if you don't have them already. As well, I will be giving them a sort of ranking order, but don't take that too seriously, take it with a bit of a grain of salt, as different weapons will excel with different playstyles and builds just in general. I'm just trying to give it a little bit of structure to give you an idea of which, even among the top 10, are truly just a cut above the rest. That said, in 10th place we've got the freshly buffed Hellwalker Shotgun, with a big specific caveat, which is that this only really applies to red health bar enemies or flesh health. In the recent patch, they changed the Hellwalker legendary to be a fire damage weapon instead of being a kinetic damage weapon, but they didn't lower the actual damage numbers on the shots itself. Generally speaking, when a weapon does element damage instead of kinetic, it does less damage than the same weapon would do if it were kinetic, because you're adjusting for elemental damage multipliers when matching the element correctly. Because of how this change was done, however, the actual numbers behind the damage are the same as when the weapon was purely kinetic, but now it is fire damage, which means it gets a significant damage multiplier boost against red health bars. So now against red health bars, this thing absolutely shreds, but against any other health bar type, it is worse than it used to be. So this is definitely one of the most teetering on the edge ones on the list. It's a bit less strong than what I have on the rest of the list, but I thought it was worth giving its time in the spotlight here after it got this specific buff. To get this for yourself then, it is a dedicated drop from the bosses of this drill site over here on the southern side of the Terminus Range region, right beside the connection to the Fade Fields. Moving on to 9th place, I've got the Rainbow Vomit Legendary Shotgun, but with a specific part modifier, which is the Spread Launcher Jakobs Underbarrel. This underbarrel applies an incredible amount of damage in a singular burst, which makes it synergize very, very well with things like one-shot damage amps like the Amp Shield modifier or the Amp Rep Kit modifier, because all 5 of the grenades that fire in one Spread Launcher shot all count as one gunshot by the technicality of the damage modifiers in the game, which means that you can really just boost the hell out of this as an underbarrel for boss killing specifically. It is spread damage, it is gun damage, it does so many different things that you can synergize with, and while the Spread Launcher itself can be found in stronger forms on non-legendary weapons, it can also drop on the Rainbow Vomit Legendary Shotgun without making the Rainbow Vomit itself weaker. So technically it is the best of both worlds to have it on Rainbow Vomit. As for the weapon itself, Rainbow Vomit is just a really, really good shotgun in general. It scales with splash damage because of the way the projectiles count. It splits its damage between 3 separate element types, rolling at random when you get the weapon, and this makes it scale incredibly well for anyone who just gets general element damage increases as a part of their skill tree and as a part of their build, especially considering that Jakobs shotguns, despite having some of the best stats of any weapon type in the entire game, tend to be non-elemental weapons. So this lets you synergize a Jakobs shotgun in an elemental build, which is a really big deal. As for how to get this, Rainbow Vomit is a dedicated drop from Leader Willem, whose boss Encore machine is located here, but he is only unlocked after you finish the side quest chain in Carcadia that begins with Enter the Electi and ends with the Mole's Gambit side quest. In 8th place, I've got the Complex Root Legendary Sniper Rifle, but with a specific license part addition, which is the Atlas Tracker Underbarrel. This is not the last time you will see this underbarrel come up, but some of the weapons with funkier projectile patterns interact with Atlas trackers in some really silly ways. This weapon normally just fires a bunch of bonus projectiles along its path as it travels, but if you apply an Atlas tracker to an enemy before you fire the weapon, all of these bonus projectiles will also try to curve back in and home back into the initial target instead, which drastically improves the damage. Then combine that with an Atlas legendary enhancement that boosts things like fire rate or ammo consumption when a tracker is applied, and suddenly you have an absolute beast of a weapon, which even compared to just a normal standard complex root is a very big difference in power. As for how to get this one, it is a dedicated drop from Mimikron, who is the boss of the Tipping Point Order Bunker, which is right beside Idolator Saul's fortress in the Fade Fields region. After that, we've got the 7th place item, which is going to be TK's Wave, with a couple of specific licensed part modifiers. The weapon itself is a classic in the series known for firing a load of high damaging projectiles in a wave pattern. Usually the offset for the incredibly high damage it gets per pellet is the actual projectile pattern is a bit unwieldy unless you are like right up in an enemy's face. The solution to that though is the Atlas Tracker underbarrel once again. Apply an Atlas Tracker to the enemy and then suddenly all 10 projectiles will hit the target even from medium range with this gun, no problem. And then you combine that even further with just the very high base damage of the weapon and it is just a ton in itself. But you can also find this combination with Torgue sticky mine ammo on top of it, which then scales even harder because each sticky mine increases the damage of the sticky mine explosions, so you end up being able to fire off just a load of shots that all hit crit spots because of the Atlas Tracker, and then when you reload, the domino chain of explosions gets really nasty. As for how to get this, it's a bit of a particular drop as you need 2 specific licensed parts, but the TK's Wave Shotgun in general is a dedicated drop from Rock and Roller, the boss of the Auger Mine located on the northern side of the Carcadia Burns region. Moving on then, we've got our number 6 entry, which is going to be Hot Slugger. This is a really powerful legendary shotgun, incredibly just powerful right out of the gate, high damage per shot, slug projectile in itself, so it is a long range applicable shotgun. It scales with splash damage as well because of how the projectile works, and then the legendary effect on the weapon itself increases gun damage when you get a kill up to a maximum of a 90% damage bonus. I've had mixed results testing what this actually affects. It definitely doesn't increase my melee damage when I have stacks active, so it can't apply to all damage, but I've heard people say it does apply to things like action skill damage, so my end train of thought with this is that it specifically boosts gun damage, and then any bonuses you have that can convert gun damage bonuses to boost other sources must be taken into consideration as well. So long story short, strong damage increase, strong weapon, just really powerful as a base entity even without any specific roles or build interactions. As for how to get it, this one is a dedicated drop from Chad, the boss of the Order Bunker on the eastern side of the Terminus Range region. Fifth, then, we have an enhanced set of interactions compared to last time, which is a specific combination of modifiers on non-legendary weapons, and there are actually a few ways to do this. The number 1 requirement is that you have Torgue sticky shots as your modifier, as there seems to be something really messed up between Torgue stickies and underbarrel attachments. The 2 weapon types you want this on are either a Ripper manufacturer shotgun or a Vladof manufacturer SMG. On a Ripper shotgun, you would also want it with the fuel rod underbarrel attachment. Torgue sticky ammo increases explosive damage done to the target for each sticky that's attached to them. The fuel rod triggers this interaction, so you can mass fire stickies onto an enemy really quickly with rapid firing shots, quick swap to the fuel rod, and then fire it to basically one-shot a lot of bosses. But the version of this interaction that I have in my hands personally is stickies plus the Vladof taser underbarrel, which is the Vladof SMG equivalent weapon. You can also do this with the flamethrower attachment, but the taser specifically triggers this interaction even better. And while I am selling this as a non-legendary because it doesn't need to be a legendary, it's worth noting there are also legendary Vladof SMGs like Burt's Bees that can roll with this combo and have the same effect when you do. As well as a separate but also related interaction to call out, there's something funky going on with the Vladof flamethrower underbarrel attachment and the Vladof enhancement that gives 30% chance of bonus projectiles when firing, where if you swap the underbarrel on and off repeatedly over and over, like swap modes back and forth, sort of like the San Saba Songbird interaction where you fire once, switch mode, fire once, switch mode, do this over and over, and the damage just sort of skyrockets with the actual bullet part of the gun as you continue to do this. Theoretically, it's just applying the 30% chance of bonus projectiles from the Vladof enhancement over and over again to the point where when you actually shoot the gun after doing this multiple times in a row, you're basically firing off like multiple shotgun shots with every SMG bullet at an extremely high fire rate, which just completely breaks the game, and this does also work in tandem with Torgue stickies on the weapon if you have that on it too, making them do even more damage than they already do. Next up today, we've got a non-legendary, which is any Maliwan shotgun that rolls with 2 specific parts. First is the energy disc underbarrel attachment. This only spawns on Maliwan shotguns, and that's why it does need to be one of those, but this in itself is only decent, whereas if you get one that has the Jakobs ricochet on crit modifier part as well, you essentially can build yourself a false kickballer, but with less chances of damaging yourself and ending your own life. The energy disc is a bouncing projectile, meaning it has the same effect on ricochet, where it will basically multiply the projectile to hit multiple times every time that you crit with it. Get a source of crits like the guaranteed crit knife from Jakobs, and now you basically have the exact same interaction as the kickballer with much less chaos and splash radius, an unparalleled boss killing weapon interaction. This does it a little bit slower, but a little bit safer. This one is harder to get than a kickballer because it requires more RNG, but it also is less likely to cost you loads of cash because of the, part where you die repeatedly. As for how to get it as a non-legendary, there is no specific particularly method to get this other than looking out for Maliwan shotguns and making sure to check what parts they have when they drop. As well, the developers have confirmed that higher difficulty modes do result in more licensed parts dropping on weapons, so for something like this where we are searching for 2 specific parts on the same weapon, the higher difficulty that you farm on, the higher chances that you will find it. And third today, let's talk about BOD, the talking legendary gun. I call it a gun because it's not a pistol, it's not an assault rifle, it's not a submachine gun, it's not a shotgun, it's everything. So it's a gun. BOD as a gun then has solid stats in general, but the legendary effect on it is that it counts as every type of weapon at the same time. The thing that I usually see people say about that effect is that it makes it easier to complete challenges because you get a kill and it will count as a kill for every weapon type at the same time instead of only one of them. And that is great, but you can take this so much further. Like Vex has the Undead Eye class mod that gives you a chance to gain the Bloodshot effect when you get a crit with a sniper rifle. BOD is the only weapon that counts as being a sniper rifle but does not work like a sniper rifle, letting you take advantage of this with a shotgun, which then lets you completely change the playstyle of that sort of functionality. Not to mention things like class mods or enhancements can have varied effects like increased SMG damage or increased sniper rifle damage or increased sniper rifle crit damage, and because BOD counts as every weapon type at the same time, all of these varied stat increases can affect BOD together, and something many people don't realize is that these are all essentially separate multipliers. If you get gun damage increase, submachine gun damage increase, and sniper rifle damage increase all at the same time from different sources, these will all boost the bonuses you get from the other one if they all affect the weapon. It's not just one big flat bonus, they are all multipliers. This means that BOD has an incredible ability to scale if you have the right class mod and enhancements to stick on with it, and this is probably the weapon on the list that has the least power right out of the box. Like you can see me just firing it at the training dummy. I have not built for it in any way, and it has the lowest damage of anything we've shown so far. Its default existence is pretty mediocre, but if you can build around its high fire rate, if you can build around the way it counts as multiple weapon types, its actual peak potential is insanely high, especially as it can drop as any elemental damage type too, so you can specialize it for different enemies. As for how to get this one, BOD is a dedicated drop from Axmal, who is the boss of the Augur Mine on the western side of Dominion in the central city area. In second place today, we have something much easier to use, but also way more dangerous, which is the Kickballer Legendary Shotgun. Specifically also with the Jakobs part modifier that gives you ricochets on critical hit, and the reason for this is that specific projectile types just work really weird with ricochets. You can do this with almost anything that doesn't disappear on hit. Projectiles that bounce specifically, like this in the energy disc that we talked about, will essentially multiply if they ricochet off of an enemy and create a new bouncing projectile. If you can get them looping in a good spot with crits that then create some of the most broken interactions that the game can have. In this case, all you need is a Jakobs modifier Kickballer, and then something like this guaranteed crit knife to guarantee the crits and thus the ricochets, and now every time that the shot hits the enemy, it will create a bonus explosive ball without getting rid of the first one. And every explosive ball can hit multiple times, which means they just sort of spread out and conquer like an explosive pyramid scheme. If you want this thing for yourself, it is a dedicated drop from Sludgemaw, who is the boss inside of the Watershed Gate area of the Fadefields region, but he only unlocks to be fought once you've completed the Outbounders side mission that brings you here to begin with. Finally then, in first place we've got San Saba Songbird. You could argue this is by a technicality because this is entirely based around a bugged interaction. This weapon is a legendary pistol, and the effect is when you do a weapon swap from a different weapon onto this one, it gains damage for 5 seconds after the fact, or at least that's what it says it does in game. In reality, there is no timer on this buff effect, and it can stack upon itself, meaning if you swap to a weapon that is not San Saba Songbird, then swap back onto San Saba Songbird, it will now do 100% more damage. You do have to fire the gun at least one time before swapping off of it and then back on for this buff to apply, but you can stack it a literally infinite number of times. It just obviously would take a while to do so. And fun fact, this bonus also applies to any underbarrel attachments that the weapon rolls with, so in this case I have zip rockets, and these zip rockets do scale with the ridiculous bugged damage increase as well. So with a bit of patience, this weapon is capable of doing the most damage in a single shot of anything at all anywhere in the game. So by that technicality, it is in the #1 slot, but with a big caveat that you need a lot of patience to boost it up there, because without the bug, it's just not all that strong. That said, if you do want this one for yourself, it is also a dedicated drop from Rock and Roller, who is the boss of the Augur Mine on the northern side of the Carcadia Burns region. That just about does it for today then, everyone. An updated list of the 10 strongest weapons in Borderlands 4 right now, based on some new discoveries from players over the last week or so. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and if you have any other considerations that you think should be replacing one of these guns on the list that you think we need to know about, feel free to let us know down in the comments below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm the conductor of the poop train!
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.